Welcome back to the Right Take Report. Biden was recently back in front of the cameras, and we all know how that will go. Obviously bad. It's really one of the worst times because he's not even the president anymore, and he still doesn't even know what he's talking about. He's making tons of weird comparisons and forgetting things and stuttering like usual. He is peak post-president puppetry. But stick around because even CNN is starting to throw in the towel on him and telling us how irrelevant he is.
Let's turn to Ukraine, can we? Because you compared the war in Ukraine with the Second World War. President Trump is now saying, look, if you want peace, Ukraine is going to have to give up some territory. Some people think that is common sense to say that. Do you think it's not common sense? It's perhaps modern-day appeasement?
It is modern-day appeasement. Look, listen to what Putin said when he talked about going from Kyiv into Ukraine and why. He can't stand the fact that the Russian dictatorship that he runs, that the Soviet Union has collapsed. And anybody thinks he's going to stop is just foolish.
New this morning, former President Joe Biden giving his first broadcast interview since leaving the White House. Listen to what he told the BBC.
And the way we talk about now that, well, it's the Gulf of America. Maybe we're going to have to take back Panama. Maybe we need to acquire Greenland. Maybe Canada should be. What the hell's going on here? What president ever talks like that?
All right, with us now, CNN political commentator, former Trump White House communications director, Alyssa Farah-Griffin, and CNN political commentator and host of Off the Cup, S.E. Cupp is here.
Hi.
Two things I want to talk about with former President Biden there, because he was talking about foreign policy in general and President Trump's handling of it. Politico's headline today is World on Fire. Look, India, Pakistan.
Yeah.
You have Russia still, pounding Ukraine. You've got Israel taking the gloves off again, perhaps in Gaza there. So when Joe Biden, the former president, is talking about this, what do you think of his message? And then also, what do you think of the messenger?
The message is fine. The messenger is irrelevant. And that's, hard to say and maybe hard for him to hear. But listen, Democratic voters are over him. Democratic lawmakers are angry at him. And Democratic donors are over him. They're past him. They're done with him. They don't want him around. And just practically, it's a very bad time for Joe Biden to pop up. Voters are just now starting to blame the economy on Donald Trump and less on Joe Biden. For him to pop up and remind people of the bad old days it's bad timing. He's got a great point of view on foreign policy and he's earned it over many years, but he's an irrelevant figure in the party right now.
All right, here we go again. I actually love talking about Biden because it's really just easy pickings when it comes to commentating on him and what he talks about. First, he compares Ukraine versus Russia to World War II, which is kind of hilarious. I wasn't alive for World War II. Maybe he was, probably since he's almost like 100 years old, but he surely doesn't remember any of it. And comparing current battles to that is kind of out of touch. It's kind of funny, though, that Biden is out here commenting on what and how presidents should speak, considering he can barely get even more than 2 words out before forgetting where he is and what conversation he's even in. To be honest, as I said in the intro, he's just a puppet. I don't even know why he's come out of the caves. But I can actually thank CNN for once for saying Biden is totally irrelevant, because that's exactly what he is nowadays. Why are we even talking about him? The guy clearly has no current knowledge on anything, just like Kamala. He needs to be fully scripted for every single interview and pushed and helped through every single sentence. Let's just stop with this nonsense.
How do voters feel about this message, that this is all chaos?
Well, I suspect SC and I are getting similar texts this morning from Democratic operatives, because this is the messenger no Democrat wants to see out there right now. Listen, Joe Biden has a very mixed legacy on a number of factors. He deserves tremendous credit for holding the NATO alliance together in the aftermath of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This is also a president who oversaw the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. That arguably has implications for the war between Israel and Gaza and other things that we see happening around the world. Something that I think has been really hard for allies and our adversaries around the world to forget about. Listen, people are ready to move on, with due respect to the former president. And most former presidents give their legacies some time to breathe. I think of Jimmy Carter. When he lost, he did not go out there and do a lot of interviews. He gave his legacy some time. And a decade later, he was one of the most beloved former presidents. If I were giving advice to Joe Biden, it'd be give your legacy some time to breathe. Trump is actually getting some responsibility for what's happening right now. Let him own that.
Just a quick break. Even on CNN, it kind of seems like they're clearly sick of Biden, which tells a lot about CNN, given about, 6 to 12 months ago or wherever the presidential race was, they were vouching for him with all of their hearts. And this really tells you how he's just been unwanted in today's world and in its political climate. Not to mention his appearance and interview, and not to mention in the future appearance on The View, is just bad timing for the Democrats. Trump is under the most pressure he's been under since being elected, just before the economy and the stock market may start bouncing back or falling flat on their face as they have. But to help us out, here comes laughable Biden making an appearance yet again. It's almost like he's trying to lose for the Democratic Party and to continue losing for them, even when Trump may not be doing everything correct. At this point, even his own side seems embarrassed to even put him in front of a camera. Let's just stop.
But he was asked the question that I think I know Democrats don't want to relive right now, which is should he dropped out of the race sooner?
Mr. President, did you leave it too late? Should you have withdrawn earlier, given someone else a bigger chance?
I don't think it would have mattered.
I'm sorry, I should have had that face there. I mean, Alyssa, it may be the way he answered that question that answered the question.
It did. Listen, Kamala Harris had a 90-day stretch to run, by the way, at a time when the approval rating in the country, the right track, wrong track, only 28% of Americans thought that the country was on the right track. You could be the greatest political candidate of all time, which the former vice president was not, and you're not going to be able to overcome that way that you're just carried down by the Biden administration. It's also just not a feat we've ever seen in American politics where somebody's been elected in that short of a time frame. And to her credit, she raised $1 billion. She set some major, she outpaced some goals that she had. But I think it's inarguable that more time for any other candidate on the Democratic side.
Here is my last commentary on this short video. To be honest, Biden was never going to withdraw from the presidency until after that devastatingly embarrassing debate he had with Trump where he couldn't even get 2 words out. Like, come on, what president has ever dropped out of a race? The Democrats were purely trying anything they could do to combat Trump during that race, which led to them illegally allowing Biden to drop out. And we know the Democrats have tried basically anything to combat Trump during that time, and most people really know exactly what I'm talking about. Court cases and slander and smear campaigns. It was just ridiculous, and the guy still won. This is just another step on a terrible Democratic ladder that we cannot seem to get rid of. Also, speaking on what Kamala raised, $1 billion is great, which is, in terms of spending, 2 to 3 times more than Trump raised, and she still lost, which makes no sense. And this is only because wealthy Democrats wanted Trump out purely from hatred they have for him. Not policy, not how the economy works, not foreign diplomacy, no trade wars, no wars. No, they just don't like who the guy is. However, that's all I have to say for today. Thank you so much for watching. The Biden View video is coming out shortly. I'll be reacting to this, so please stay tuned, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos in the future. Thanks again.